Dads. So much drama and fiction surrounds these guys. How many stories out there could have been avoided completely if the MC's dad had just gotten their crap together? A lot of dads in media are portrayed as incompetent at best and outright abusive at worst, to the point that when a good, involved father actually pops up, it's incredibly refreshing. I'm sure I'll get to talking about bumbling or evil fathers on this channel eventually, but today I want to focus on a different dad trope, the overprotective father. This is one that's been around for a while and is generally played for laughs in lighthearted movies or sitcoms, with a few examples being Walter Stratford from 10 Things I Hate About You, Dracula in Hotel Transylvania, or Bob Day on New Girl. While these fathers do often play the antagonist by blocking their daughters' romances, their actions are usually framed as sympathetic or understandable in some way, and are never too heavily criticized by the other characters. So please allow me to make up for that by criticizing them today. Because despite the generally lighthearted tone of this trope, there are actually some big problems with it. Namely, the father's absolute obsession with keeping boys away from his daughter, even though in most cases she's a near adult, if not a full-grown one. It would be one thing if these dads were trying to protect their daughters from men who are actually dangerous and threaten their safety in some way, but that's rarely, if ever, the case here. Most of the time it's him threatening and trying to scare off the guy she's interested in, even though he's done nothing to warrant such a reaction. It's pretty clear to me that this trope is rooted in some outdated misogynist standards. The idea that a female character is less her own person with feelings and ideas of her own, and more of an extension of her male relatives, or worse, their property, which must be bought and paid for before it can be played with. And I say male relatives, not just fathers, because this trope will occasionally spill over onto brother characters as well, like Ross's severe overreaction to Monica dating Chandler in Friends.
Jonah, I saw what you were doing through the window! I saw what you were doing to my sister! Now get out here!
And this is only backed up by the fact that this trope is hardly ever gender flipped. You don't see fathers trying to stop their sons from dating. Sometimes you may see a father expressing concern because they don't believe that their sons are prepared for a committed or sexual relationship, but it's nothing like the visceral fear or anger that we see with daughters. And if a mother is seen being critical of her child's partner, it's generally her smothering her daughter-in-law for not taking care of her son the way she does. Which, to be clear, is also gross and creepy, but unlike the overprotective dad trope, it's usually already cast in a negative light. And this is because for centuries, seducing many women has been seen as an accomplishment for men, whose duty it was to spread their genes and sire as many children as possible, whereas for women it was the exact opposite. She could only have so many children in her lifetime before, gasp, the change would come upon her.
You men may have a stomach for bloodshed and slaughter, but this is another matter entirely.
And she had better make sure she chooses a partner who can provide for her and her offspring before then. Otherwise her life would be a living hell.
Were I born a man, I could bear Tim if I wanted. I could father a dozen bastards, and no one in your court would blink an eye.
You're right. But you were born a woman.
If everything I just said to you felt incredibly outdated and gross, that's because it is. And it boggles my mind that these ideas are still persisting into the modern day. So when I see a father, either real or fictional, being so incredibly protective of his daughter's virginity, it makes me think there's a certain level of, well, I can't say the word on YouTube without getting demonetized, but it rhymes with emotional flincest going on. And honestly, I think these overprotective dads are just telling on themselves for being bad parents. If you can't trust your daughter to make her own decisions, even once she's full grown, what kind of awful father were you? In Kim Possible, Kim's father apparently trusts her to save the world from supervillains, but not to be alone with boys.
Well, at least Kimmy's just lost in the time stream and not staying out late with some boy.
Like, dude, you're a rocket scientist. You must see the lack of logic here. Going back to 10 Things I Hate About You, Kat and Bianca's father's justification for being so overprotective is that he's an obstetrician, who has seen teen girls' lives ruined before by unplanned pregnancies and doesn't want the same for his daughters. Well, here's an idea, buddy. Why don't you teach your daughters about birth control? Make sure they know the consequences of pregnancy and STDs, and give them the tools they need to protect themselves. Sure, maybe it'll be awkward initially, but it'll still be less awkward than being a 40-year-old grandfather. Let's take a moment here and contrast these fathers against who I consider to be the best father on TV, at least at the time of recording this. Bob Belcher of Bob's Burgers. Over the course of the series, his daughter Tina makes no secret of the fact that she's maturing and beginning to explore her own sexuality. Bob is sometimes made uncomfortable by this, but he never makes that Tina's problem. Instead, he makes sure she's informed about consent and boundaries and trusts her to make smart choices, even when she plans on going to play spin the bottle at a party with no adults present.
Because whether you kiss anyone or not, you're in charge of your own mouth, who you kiss with it, and what you say with it.
By doing this, he keeps the lines of communication open and remains a safe person for her to come to, so if Tina were to get in trouble somehow, she wouldn't feel the need to keep it a secret from him. That is good parenting, people, not whatever this is.
Every time you even think about kissing a boy, I want you to picture wearing this under your halter top.
In conclusion, the overprotective dad trope is rooted in outdated, misogynistic ideas that need to die out yesterday. I know I like to say that almost any trope can be done well, but this one is really hard sell for me. The only way I can possibly get behind it is if the daughter being protected is in some real physical danger. In Phineas and Ferb, Dr. Doofenshmirtz had what I feel was a pretty reasonable reaction to his teenage daughter being hit on by a grown man.
Hey, sweetheart, how'd you like to take a ride on a real bike? She's 16!
This moment is also helped by the fact that in other episodes, Doof is shown to have no issues with Vanessa going out with boys her own age.
Including a nice fella named Johnny. He had hearts by his name. I think I know what that means.
There are also occasionally dads who are overprotective in areas which have nothing to do with boys, like in the movie Wolfwalkers, where Bill Goodfellow seeks to protect his daughter Robin from not only the wolves in the forest, but also the town's extremist Lord Protector. Throughout the film, his actions are frustrating, but I deem them appropriate, namely because Robin is a literal child in this instance, and not an adult or near adult like the other examples in this video. Had she been older and better prepared to take care of herself, that may have been a different story. But as always, I want to hear what you guys think, so be sure and leave a comment down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel for more. Until next time, stay brilliant everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.